Atención. Atención. Oye, atención.
Cannabis Week starts Monday, March 17th on the Russ Belville Show and 420radio.org. Join me, Gordon Green, as I bring you all the happenings from the largest cannabis expo in the world, Cannabis 2014 in Barcelona, Spain. Daily reports, all access interviews from Jorge Cervantes, Annie Danko, European personalities like Cannabis Cure UK and the Dope Fiend, and many more. All here with me, Gordon Green, starting Monday, March 17th on 420radio.org and the Russ Belville Show.
Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhaled frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just like cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Hi, Faith and Bigora! Welcome to St. Patty's Day here at 420 Radio! And that's the end. I'm not doing any more Irish accent because I suck at it.
By the way, you do know my name, don't you?
Oh, Larry?
Larry O. Summers.
Larry O. Summers. That's right. He's Larry O. Summers. That's right. Larry's here. Left Wing Larry is hanging out at the camera 4 position there. Oh, no, there's Brian Red at camera 4. Camera 5, Left Wing Larry. We redesigned all the cameras.
Number 5.
Number 5? So
I got something to show you.
All right, we got show and tell.
Try this.
Ah, all right. Let's see, we got a silver, looks like a Cloud Vape pen.
Yep, Cloud Vape.
Okay.
But I replaced the head on it with a generic
5,000 years long. Still they stand up strong.
Oh, so it lets you, it stays lit longer. It doesn't just time out. Oh, no, there it goes, timing out.
All right.
Let's see what you got. No, you didn't get nothing out.
Not much. A little bit, though. That was good. It was a good vape hit.
Well, anyways, what I want to let you know is I get a hell of a lot more out of it because the head on it, the little round part here,
yeah,
it's just slightly bigger. And I think it's got a hotter thing down inside.
The new one I got has a bigger reservoir, and it's a USB plug-in on the bottom instead of that little pointy plug-in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which really helps because I always lose these specialty adapters.
What, you got a mini?
Yeah, the micro USB, the little thin one. Hey, the technology on these vapor pens is changing, quite a bit, and I'm glad to see it too because it really helps us as far as the image of using concentrates. In fact, I was just browsing the net when I saw this article that's up on Slate. This was written though back in February, but somebody else had retweeted tweeted it or something. It's called Baking Bad,
Yeah.
How Dabbing, Smoking Potent, Highly Concentrated Processed Hash Oil Could Blow Up Colorado's Legalization Experiment. And they talk about how volatile chemicals, easily transportable, stoned kids with blowtorches, etc. Right? So it's, I wrote this article back in 2009, basically. But here it is, more people talking about it. So, how was the weekend? I was gone.
It was a lot of interesting times. I went down to the Cannabis Cafe. Miss Jill was down there from the Weed Nerd, Subquilla Miss Jill. Okay. Sub doesn't make it out of Cali much, but it was nice hanging out with her. I got a little video clip. We'll maybe find that later. And hung out with the Happy Daddy Tools guys. They were filming their new podcast, Happy Daddy Show.
Cool.
And got to see some prototype hush hush stuff they're working on. So really cool. We love those guys there out at Happy Daddy Tools, Happy Daddy Products. Check them out on Facebook, online, and they were talking on this episode about hat pins.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, and I also got to meet up with Drew West, Secrets of the West Coast Masters, and he hooked me up with a hat pin, which, I don't wear hats much, so I just put them on like badges.
Badges?
Badges! We don't need no stinking badges!
Vámonos!
Oh, ándale!
All right. And we got Left Wing Larry, who's been gardening, and I understand the garden's doing quite well.
Oh, it is amazing. The plants are too big to bring in anymore. I'm just going to have to bring you pictures of the flowers.
All right, we'll take that. We got some good cameras. And
we got some good green going out there in the yard.
We got some good green going in the garden.
We also like the new camera we got, and we'll be showing some more videos from the Seattle Vendor Fair that we took with this camera, which I'm pleased so much so far.
I like it. I'm poking around inside the settings on the touchscreen.
Yeah, touchscreen. It's cool.
It has what I like, which is a still shot, multi-shot.
Yeah.
So I can just hold that button down and
snap,
and then I get to pick my favorite shot. And you guys only see that one. The rest of them end up on the cutting room floor.
And big thanks to Big Daddy Fink for this chair. Oh my goodness.
Big chair pimpin'.
So all this, I've been getting this repetitive stress injury in my shoulder and in my back from this lousy chair because I sit, I work here, 8, 10, 12 hours a day.
This is his office.
Yeah, I live here, man. So
it may be missing when you get back.
It's pretty sweet, I got to tell you.
I saw that
Big
thing
Daddy.
come in and I went, man, just what I need.
Hey, when we come back, I'm going to bring you my speech from the vendor fair in Seattle. Stay tuned.
It's simply business.
Speaking of.
It's simply business. It's simply business, why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business, why they won't let us grow. It's simply business. It's simply business, why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today. 420 Radio, the activist radio station. When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activist to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today.
And it's such a pleasure. I was on your show the other day, came out, hung out in your studio, gave me a tour of Oregon. It was a blast. Thank you so much for having us. Thanks for having us over there. We got to go to the world famous Cannabis Cafe.
That's right, Cannabis Cafe in Portland, Oregon, celebrating its 5th anniversary this year.
That's awesome, and we gave them the last magical butter machine in America that day, which was such a hoot. You know, ladies and gentlemen, Russ is going to be coming around. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to actually turn it over. Russ, tell everybody here at Magical Butter Studios what you do. I'm going to turn the mic over to you because I know you know how to use it. Right. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for coming here to Magical Butter.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Jeremy Cooper with Magical Butter, everybody. Give them a big round of applause for putting this on because this is so important, what's going on right now. This is the MJBA, the Marijuana Business Association. Get involved with it because we are at the forefront of the green rush in America, here in the Pacific Northwest and in Colorado. I get to travel all over the country and cover these various events, and this is one of the first vendor-to-vendor, business-to-business type of events that I've been at. And again, like I said, this is so important because we are setting the tone for what the legalized marijuana industry is going to be. All eyes are on Washington and Colorado right now. There's a whole bunch of people in the DEA and in law enforcement and in drug rehab, people that own prison stocks that want to see this fail. They want to see this be a spectacular failure so they can point to other states and say, oh, look what happened in Washington and Colorado. You don't want that in your state. So it's incumbent upon the entrepreneurs and the businesses to set the highest possible standard, if you'll pardon the pun, for their business operations, to be above reproach, to have the best in ethics and integrity. We don't have any room in the public sphere to mess up. They're waiting for us to mess up, and they're going to take advantage of every opportunity they can to try to portray the legalization of marijuana and the attendant business that comes with it as something dangerous. Currently, the leading group that is trying to fight marijuana legalization is called Project SAM. And one of their biggest talking points, you'll see Patrick Kennedy get on TV all the time talking about this, one of their biggest talking points is that the new marijuana industry will be the new big tobacco. Just like big tobacco, it'll come in, it'll lie about the product, it'll market to kids, try to entice people to become addicts. That's the way they want to portray the marijuana industry, and I think it's important for us to show that that is not the way this industry is going to develop. That we're interested in marketing to adults, not children. We're interested in responsible, safe adult use, not abuse. We're interested in the medical aspects of cannabis, raw cannabis, juicing, so many other aspects of cannabis that have nothing to do with getting high. And even the aspects that do have something to do with getting high, well, those things are happening in America already. We're just asking to take the profit away from cartels and criminals and put it in the hands of law-abiding, tax-paying, job-creating businesses like yours. So thank you, vendors, for being a part of this, entrepreneurs for being a part of this, for setting the highest standards, the top standards in the industry, in any industry. My job is to catalog this stuff for the If you'd like to see some of the interviews and videos that I'll be doing this weekend, you can find them at 420radio.org. Come see me. I'll give you a card, give you the address. You can also find my social media accounts at Radical Russ, and I'll have photos and tweets and all sorts of stuff from this weekend. Again, thanks to Jeremy Cooper and Magical Butter and MJBA for having me out here. I'm Radical Russ from 420 Radio. See you online. Take care of each other, Tokers.
Thank you, Ross. Tremendous. Okay, we have a very special presentation today, very special in my mind. One thumb, one thumb. Excuse me, everyone. I'd love to introduce to you the MJBA's first corporate sponsor and one of our favorite people in the cannabis industry here in Seattle, Cecilia Siverton and Nana Secret Soda. Okay, you have to be one.
But now I can be that person, and I can go all across the country and tell everybody that I have epilepsy and how cannabis makes that all right, makes me just like everybody else. And that's what Nana's Secret is all about. That's how making Nana's Secret has made me just like everybody else. And that's why I want you and everybody else to have Nana's Secret. And we're going to change everybody else's mind, one soda at a time. And I really can't talk anymore because I'm not feeling too well today.
Thank you, Nana. My name is Michael Gutson. There she is, the queen of the MJ universe right there. I'm Michael Gutson, as I said. I'm a marketing guy. Been working with Dave and Morgan I did the poster for him, by the way. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Nana. And what we're doing with her is that we are taking an approach, while Nana's Secret is a decidedly medical product and it's healing for what she's developing for. But right now, we're starting to make a move over into the retail market and present Nana as not only a healing product, but a product that is fun and enhances an already great lifestyle. So you'll see from Nana a very large quantity of national level creative, big time creative. We've recruited a lot of people from the Fortune 500 advertising community to come and work here and begin this business. And I just want you all to appreciate Nana. She's done a ton of stuff for the industry, for MMJ, as well as for the retail market. And her involvement with epilepsy and CBD-related healing properties, it's become really a big thing for us and for this industry. I really want you guys to stop by and say hi to Nana and give her a hug. She's an awesome lady. So thanks for all coming out. And thanks to Dave and the NJBA. Don't forget about those people. They are the community. This is where you all can come and learn about it. Tweet, Facebook, tell everybody you're here. All right? Thanks.
Love the feedback. Happens to the best of us, folks. All right, so that sound means it's 4:20 here in the Pacific Time Zone. Time for us to take a union-mandated break with Mjolnir and some Cindy 99. We'll be back with Fritz from Eden Labs, one of the experts in extraction.
Met that funny reefer man, a reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man, a reefer man? If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay, read the Weed Blog today. Marijuana Compassion and Common Sense with Lanny Swerdlow from the Inland Empire, California, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, and 9 p.m. GMT on 420radio.org.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420.
In the afternoon, if I'm home, I smoke marijuana.
You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Marijuana, yeah, yeah. I got my ganja. Feature. Higher seeker. Yo, just give me my hemp paper. Bill up a spliff, light it up, I smell the vapor.
That's Haya Sika with Gimme My Hemp Paper. Come Around Rhythm. That's one of our earliest Irie Wednesday songs, actually. We've been playing this one for a long time. I always liked when Kerry used to say his name. Haya Sika. That's a good name. I like it. Welcome back. We're hanging out here with Brian the Red and Left Wing Larry in the studio right now. And coming up next, we'll have some more video. A great presentation by Fritz from Eden Labs. You old-time folks going back to the day, you know, the old High Times ads. Do you remember the very first extractor you ever saw an ad for in High Times? He made it. So he talks about that and the development of extraction technologies to the industrial level. It's really fascinating, especially if you're into the science of this stuff. So we're going to play that here in just a few minutes. But before we do, we've got some fantastic breaking news here at 420 Radio. The Senate just passed by a voice vote a bill. This is, Senate Bill 247 just passed on a voice vote, which would eliminate the restriction of a maximum of 1,000 registered patients who can obtain medical marijuana through a licensed dispensary. Did you know that? Did you know Vermont had a max? Only 1,000 only 1,000 could go to a dispensary. That's it. A patient max. Sorry, after 1,000, that's enough sick people.
Is that total amount? Or
yeah.
Okay,
Not for each dispensary, though.
Each dispensary, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So basically, if you're the 1,000th customer, they give you all of the rest of their supply?
Well, no, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now,
Surprise!
I'll read further as we get in the bill, but it says, proposes to eliminate the restriction of a maximum of 1,000 registered patients who can obtain medical marijuana through a licensed dispensary. That says to me 1,000 total statewide. We'll see. All right, let's see how that goes. Add post-traumatic stress as a debilitating medical condition. Fantastic. Absolutely. I mean, the federal government just approved a study for PTSD in cannabis, so that makes sense, right?
In Arizona, of all places.
Yeah, exactly. Add naturopathic physicians to the list of healthcare providers, naturopaths who'd be able to recommend. And do we have Medigrove, Vermont on the line? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, Russ. Actually, what you're talking about here with the cap on patients in the dispensaries is indeed just 1,000 patients for the entire state of Vermont.
So after 1,000, you got to grow your own. So it's not 1,000 limited, like there could be 10,000 patients, but only 1,000 of them could shop at the dispensary?
You know, Russ, it's funny you should say that. If there are not 10,000 people that qualify for a card, there are 9,000 of them are not signing up for various reasons, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, so let's go through some of this. Increase the limits of marijuana a dispensary may possess. I imagine that's their gross inventory, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Authorize additional dispensaries on an as-needed basis as determined by the Department of Public Safety. Is that the cops in Vermont? Public Safety?
Well, actually, Russ, we had to go with the Department of Public Safety because at the time, the Department of Health would not even consider it. They were considering it just a non-starter.
Okay.
So the Department of Public Safety was the safest way to go.
Any estimate on how many additional dispensaries this may mean?
At least 2, and they're going to be small dispensaries. They're going to be allowed to deliver.
Delivery will be okay. Okay, that's good. So what do you got, like 3 in Vermont right now?
Well, technically we have 3 firms running 4 dispensaries. Champlain Valley got the 4th license, which gives them 2 licenses, which makes them the unofficial pot Nazis in Vermont. That's what we call them.
Okay.
And they've done a limited operation in southern Vermont for Brattleboro. You've got one in Brandon, you've got one in Montpelier, and of course Champlain Valley and Burlington.
Okay. Just looking at some of the things being added here and changed in the language, to the definition of bona fide healthcare relationship, if a patient has a terminal illness, the 6-month bona fide relationship shall not apply. Well, that's awfully thoughtful. That's awfully nice of them.
Yeah, well, we do occasionally get considered here in the Green Mountain State.
Yeah. PTSD to be added. And here's, like, I've read a lot of these bills over a lot of years now. A cross out of the word and an addition of the word or when it comes to if the disease or treatment results in severe, persistent, or intractable symptoms instead of and. So now instead of had to qualify under 3 different tests, now you only got to qualify under 1 test, either severe or persistent or intractable. That's great news.
To give you a little background on what happened in the last meeting, it was actually quite intelligent. Even the police officers involved in it, I believe the police chief from one of the smaller towns in northern Vermont, we're open to ideas from Mark Tucci, who was the patient representative at the meeting.
Another change here, you can qualify with a disease, medical condition, or treatment that is chronic, debilitating, and produces severe, persistent, and then they changed it to or intractable symptoms, and then they added such as cachexia or wasting, severe pain, severe nausea, or seizures. So that seems to me to be more liberal, opening it up to better interpretation for other illnesses, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. As I understand it, and I'm glad that PTSD is being addressed, the main concerns were that they didn't want to open up to psychological conditions because these people are, quite frankly, uneducated and we're a little bit scared about what would happen there. But again, it seems like they're coming around.
Okay. The addition of naturopaths, that's good. There's a few little verbiage changes, changing some as used as instead of as provided by, but I'm not exactly sure how that would change things. The cultivation centers can cultivate now, possess up to 4 mature plants, 14 immature plants, and 6 ounces of usable marijuana for every patient. And that's up from 2 mature, 7 immature, 2 ounces. So that's a huge change for these dispensaries for their inventory.
Well, yeah, they were running out of cannabis. And again, my objection to one firm having only 1 grow and 2 licenses, if their grow goes down, all those patients would lose access.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this is looking good.
Yeah. One more thing, Russ, what's really good for the patients that are growing is that we're allowed to buy clones from the dispensaries and seeds now when they're available.
Oh, that's excellent news. Thank you so much, Fran, for calling in on that and telling us what's happening in Vermont.
You're welcome, Russ. Have a good one.
All right. Great news for the patients in Vermont. Might be able to actually make that program work for them. All right, let's go to the video. This is Fritz from Eden Labs at the Marijuana Business Fair in Seattle.
Our next presenter, Fritz Chess, is the CEO of Eden Labs, one of the corporate sponsors of MJBA. And Eden Labs specializes in the design, manufacture, research and development of a wide range of botanical extraction equipment. An innovator in the industry, Eden Labs collaborates with customers to design and fabricate the best systems for their specific needs. I have looked at your website, Fritz. I know got everything from the countertop model for the house to full-fledged industrial equipment. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fritz Chess.
Hi. First, I'd like to clarify, I'm not the CEO of Eden Labs. That's AC Braddock, and she's back there. I did found the company, though, and I was going to start by just telling part of that story. Eden Labs was founded in 1996. It was kind of a gradual start. My interest in extracting herbs actually began in the early 90s. At the time, I actually had a company called Eden Landscaping, so I was involved in the plant world that way. I had a tree farm, we did landscaping, we did tree trimming, and I was also writing articles for a little science and environmental journal. And I had done an article about a company called Shaman Pharmaceuticals, and their business model was to send researchers into the jungle, and if they found two tribes that used the same herb in the same way for a medicine, they took it back and analyzed it. That's kind of where my interest started. And I started extracting kind of the old school way, just putting herbs in a jar with alcohol and water and shaking it and putting it on the shelf. And it might have never gone any further than that, except that I wanted to extract an herb called kava kava, which is pretty difficult to extract, and it wouldn't extract just putting it in a jar and shaking it. So then I started thinking about extraction designs. And, you know, I did a little bit of cannabis at the time, but it extracted fine just putting it in a jar with alcohol, and sophisticated cannabis extractions weren't really in vogue in the early 90s. There wasn't all that much interested in cannabis extractions. So with the kava, I started looking at the extractors I could buy, and there wasn't much out there. There was really no such thing as a home extractor. In 1994, there was the sock-slit unit, which chemists use, and there were the old ISO 2s that used to be sold in High Times back in the 70s. I don't know if anybody here remembers that, but I looked at those two designs, and I wasn't that crazy about them. I could see some good things and some things I didn't like, and so I came up with my own design and went to a scientific glassblower in Columbus, Ohio, where I was from, and I showed him what I wanted to do, and he said he wasn't really interested in helping me with that. So I handed him my card for Eden Landscaping, and he said, I've got this branch over my driveway that I really need out of there. And I said, that branch will be gone when you get home from work. And after that, he started making our extractors. Can I get the next slide? So this ad over here basically represents the very beginning of Eden Labs. I had a friend down in Georgia that I met who sold, all kinds of obscure, strange herbs. And I told him about the extractor, and then he had me make him one. And he's like, dude, I can sell these if you can make them. I was like, do you think there's a market for a home extractor? And he's like, well, we'll find out. So we started running that ad in High Times in like 1996. And I did talk to an attorney about, whether this, was a good idea, or whether are there legal liabilities. And he said the main thing was not to market directly for anything illegal. So then that became kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. So we put that at the top of the ad: attention, device not intended for illegal use. And we sold those in High Times until George Bush got elected. And then we decided probably not push our luck. And so we pulled the ad. But by that point, we had a good website and a reputation. And, we had gotten involved with a lot of other herbs. The real craze in the late 90s was kava kava. I mean, the phone was ringing off the hook almost like it is now for cannabis. Everybody wanted to extract this kava kava. And playing around with the best way to do that, I started making CO2 units in 1997. The first one was real basic. It worked well, but it didn't recover the CO2. You just basically pumped it through and out the other end, and that made your extract. And so we started looking at a better way to do it. Let's see, can I get another slide? Okay, I'm going to back up and just talk about this. This was our original extraction process that we call cold finger that I had that glass blower make. So the way that works is you see the little basket with the slits hanging from that condenser. You basically put a coffee filter in there and some ground herb, and you put alcohol on the bottom and run cold water through the condenser on the top, and basically it's almost like a rain cycle. If you can picture the evaporation or the heat of the earth releasing those vapors, and the condenser would be kind of like the cool cloud where everything condenses. And so the alcohol just drips off those little dimple points on the end of the condenser and leaches through the herb and does a very complete extraction. And at the same time that the solvent's dripping, there's thick vapors in there that are also penetrating the herb as well. If the light's just right when it's running, it almost looks like there's a kind of a jellyfish cloud hanging over the basket. You see these little tentacles going down in it, but the light has to be just right to see that. So that's where our business started, is making the cold finger units, and then we moved into CO2. Can I see the next? Okay, I'm gonna back up again. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this is really interesting. Before marijuana was outlawed in 1938, it was also mostly consumed as an extract. It was sold, and with the forerunner to the modern drugstore, which was called an apothecary. And cannabis was generally sold as a tincture. And what's really interesting is a lot of the big pharmaceutical companies that we're all familiar with today, that's where they got their start, selling cannabis tinctures in these apothecaries. To the right, that bottle, that was the Upjohn Company. Park Davis right there. Eli Lilly, all the big names. That's where they got started. And these are some of their old antique bottles. These bottles are very valuable at this point and kind of hard to find. So, can we go to the next slide? Okay, so starting in 2003, we realized that the CO2 process, to be viable and profitable, you needed to have a closed-loop system that would recapture all the CO2 and continuously recirculate it through the product. Most companies were making just kind of a linear process where the CO2 was vented at the back end, and then there was a design out there where you actually had two pumps, one that did the extraction and one that recaptured the CO2 and pumped it back to a storage vessel. And I didn't think that was practical either. I wanted something that used one pump and recovered all the CO2. And the first thing we came up with was the one on the left that we call gas booster. So a gas booster pumps only vapor. And so that process was an easier way to test the theory and about recapturing the CO2, because as the CO2 is pumped through the extraction vessel on the left, it's condensed into either a supercritical fluid or a liquid. And then when it goes into the separator, it depressurizes and warms up where it drops out the oil. And then you have vapor just coming out of the vessel, which could go straight back to the gas booster pump and circle around. And that's how we did it for a few years. It actually seemed, pretty good. But the real challenge came, when the cannabis revolution started. And what we realized is that first of all, cannabis isn't really all that soluble in CO2. It's a longer process. So then we realized that the gas booster design was just too slow. And then the other problem with cannabis was tiny bits of oil always stayed entrained in those vapors and ended up going back through the pump and scoring the inside of it. And so we started realizing that the gas booster pumps, they got damaged very quickly and had to be rebuilt all the time. And so starting in 2012, we took it to the next level that we call high flow, and that's where we're pumping liquid. So obviously when you're pumping CO2 in a liquid form, you can move a lot more CO2. The trick was to get the vapor from the separator turned back into liquid and feeding that pump efficiently. Took a little trial and error, but we got it all figured out, and that's what we're selling now, and they've been very well received. I got to say, a couple years ago it was a little embarrassing, but everybody that was buying these booster designs, you know, their pumps were having problems pretty quickly. They were clogging valves. There were compressor problems. So the phone would ring, and I'd see a customer's number come up, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, what is it? Oh, the pump's broken. The valve's clogged," something like that. But now most of the calls we're getting is people that's basically bragging that they got a 15% yield, or they got a 20% yield, or they paid for their unit in only a couple weeks. Those are the kind of calls we're getting now. And it happened at just the right time, because we brought out that high flow design right about the time 502 passed. So the timing was really good. The booster designs are still out there. There's probably 5 different companies making them, and just keep in mind that those booster pumps break quickly. Can I get the next slide? These are just some more pictures of the cold fingers. That's a more sophisticated version on the left that works under vacuum, which isn't really necessary for cannabis. You actually, generally, you want some heat on it, so it decarboxylates the product and turns it into THC. But a lot of other herbs we work with are highly temperature sensitive, so you want to do your distillation at low temperature, which you can do when you put it under vacuum. Next slide. So on the left here is just one of our modern high flow units. On the right is one of our big distillers. Up until the cannabis thing started a few years ago, distillers were our main business. We make them, you know, we make the little glass ones, and then for stainless steel, we go 25, 100, and 500 gallon. Our distillers have a multiple range of uses. They do like 3 different kinds of extractions, several different kinds of distillations. Particularly well suited for making gins, because technically a gin is a kind of an herbal infused alcohol where you distill off the alcohol and get a clear product that has an herbal flavor to it with the volatiles. In the middle is just some CO2 extracts. The one on the bottom would be kind of the early part of the run where it comes out like a nice fluffy yellow color. The stuff on the top is usually later in the run. It gets a little thicker and crunchier. Next slide. I was going to skip over that one too. So CO2, you know, it's mostly in the news for you know, causing the climate to change. So basically, there's a lot of carbon locked up in the ground. When it's brought up and burned as fuel in any kind of way, it's going in the atmosphere and you know, causing the planet to warm. Which brings up the subject of, you know, sustainable CO2 for these extractors, for those who are concerned about that kind of thing. Some of the CO2 we're using comes out of the distillation plants where they're making alcohol. You could call that a sustainable CO2 because it came from a plant, so it came from carbon that was already, you know, in our atmosphere, not underground. Other CO2 comes from other industrial processes, mostly things having to do with petroleum products, so that would be, I guess, unsustainable CO2. CO2 is also used in fire extinguishers, a lot of other industrial processes, and one of the most common uses is just pushing beer into mugs at bars. A lot of people are familiar with that. Next slide. Let's just go on past that one too. Here's some other cannabis extracts. Most of those are all CO2. The one at the bottom is a butane shatter. I think everybody, you know, is fairly, most of the people in this room probably know that usually to get a hardened oil, it's the easiest way to do it is with a hydrocarbon like butane and propane. We do make closed loop butane and propane extractors, and the butane thing obviously is a bit of a problem for the industry. People are blowing up houses. There's a lot of dirty butane out there it's got benzenes and heavy metals and lubricant oils in it. So it's important when you're working with those gases to get the pure gases that are instrument grade and refined to over 99.9%. It's important to have a closed loop system that recollects all those gases. And so we really don't take sides on this. We make equipment that does all the different processes, and butane and propane are on the FDA generally regarded as safe solvents. They're considered fine for any kind of extractions that are out there, and there's lots of other things, consumable products extracted with butane. Down in Mexico, there's a giant factory that uses butane to extract astaxanthin, which is a nutraceutical from algae. So these hydrocarbons are fine. It just has to be done in a professional manner. And I am concerned that butane is sort of the Achilles heel of our industry. It's it was just on the news the other night. 2 different people in one day blew up houses. So somehow this industry needs to deal with the butane issue. I'm not sure how the best way to go about that is, but it is a problem. Next slide. Okay, so on the left here is a picture of what I think is just the nicest batch of CO2 oil that was ever made. It was Pam Haley here in the front row. It was her stuff. This was made last summer. It came out, it had a beautiful marbled look to it. It was extremely fragrant, and I've never seen anything as pretty as that yet, but it was entered in the Concentrates Cup, and for some reason it didn't win. I don't know why. I thought it was the best one. Eden Labs customers pretty much swept that event, but nevertheless, Pam should have won with that extract right there. You're setting the record straight here. Off to the right is an ultra-refined CO2 oil. There is a kind of a movement towards really clarified oils. People like that. We do have a process for taking the CO2 oil all the way to where it, it's pretty flowable and syrupy and pretty clear. And the process is not that different from, when you go to the grocery store and you see all those clear vegetable oils. They've all been degummed and de-waxed and carbon filtered, and essentially our process is very similar. Next slide. So I've been doing these events in other states that haven't legalized yet, but are on the verge of legalizing. I've been traveling a little bit with this Cannabis Career Institute group. So when I'm in a place like Cincinnati or Detroit, where people have never really seen what all of you are familiar with at this point, is all the things you can do with cannabis to make interesting retail products, like the vape pens, cookies, pops, salves. So everybody here knows about that, but in Detroit and Cincinnati and those kind of places, everybody's just blown away when they see all the possibilities. Although, the word's spreading fast, and pretty soon everybody will know about everything you can do with cannabis. Next slide, please. These jars here was just an experiment we did where we took the same cannabis and we did a CO2 extraction and then a cold finger ethanol extraction. So the one that's more orange on the left was a CO2 extraction. This one over here to the right was done with our cold finger process, just very lightly carbon filtered. It still has a tiny bit of green in it, but most of it's out. The CO2 extract came out at like 69% THC, and the ethanol extract was like 65. So the CO2 was slightly better, but not dramatic. Next slide. This is an extractor we have in Seattle that that we sold a while back. It's the old gas booster design. So you see the extractor vessel on the left and the two separators, and the gas just comes out of there and goes straight back to the pump. And the booster units also require extremely large compressors. That's a 20 horse compressor he's using on that. Our new high flow design will extract twice as fast as that unit and use a 5 horsepower compressor. Next slide. So I just added this drawing to the exhibit because Washington's going to allow industrial hemp production, is my understanding, and last week a new farm bill passed, one of the few pieces of legislation to get through the House and Senate in a long time, and in there's a provision where I think up to 8 states will be able to do industrial hemp production. So there may be a need for very large scale extractors, and generally when people are doing large hemp extractions, they're usually using ethanol to do it efficiently and inexpensively. The way this unit would work, your hemp would be in the large vessel that's at a 45-degree angle. Solvent would pump from the bottom up. It would pass through that sight glass to where you could see the color change and know when your process is done. And then it would pump straight from there into the distiller, which is modified to be a falling film evaporator and strip that ethanol out quickly. And then the ethanol is recollected in the vessel next to it. I was just told the other day that right now CBD, pure CBD, is selling for $10 a milligram, which is probably 10 times what THC is going for, which I just found amusing because, when I was a kid growing up in Ohio, we could drive over to Illinois and Nebraska and there was wild hemp everywhere. And, we tried smoking it, it didn't really do anything, but then we knew some guys who were taking that and isomerizing the CBD back into THC. And now the CBD is worth 10 times as much, so things change. With a unit like this, everybody's heard about all the different things you can do with hemp. There's rope and building materials and the hemp seed oils. Another thing you could do is actually make fuel ethanol out of it, doing a supercritical water process. So in something like that, after you flushed whatever solvent through this to extract the CBD, at that point you could pump water up to like 4,500 psi and 700 degrees, and it would take all that hemp and just immediately break it down into glucose, which could then be fermented and distilled and make alcohol out of it. So anyway, just wanted to cover some of those possibilities with our new hemp crops that'll be coming soon. So everybody here in Washington's in a unique position to capitalize on that market as well, since we know the business better than everybody else, and we're one of the first states that's going to allow hemp production. Next slide. This is just a close-up of our new closure system we call the FAC closure. When we were redesigning the system the last half of 2012, in the past we had been using just a standard flange, a multi-bolt flange, which is very common, ANC rated flange. But the thing I didn't like about them is where they close, there's like a 1/4 inch gap between the top flange and the bottom flange, and there's an O-ring in between. If that O-ring breaks, that CO2 can come out at very high pressures and represent potential danger. And so we started looking for a better way to do the closure, a safer closure, and a closure that was fast and easy to open. And this is what we came up with. We call the FAC. It basically just opens and closes like a mason jar. You drop the cap straight down, drop that ring on, and it spins down and closes up the system. You can see where the hands are, that the O-ring is now buried down inside the vessel, and that ring goes over it. So if the O-ring snaps while it's under pressure, the CO2 will just merely seep out. It won't come out, at a dangerous force that could, hit you in the eyes or something like that. And it's much easier to open and close. So, we're very happy about that. Next slide. So I was talking about the advantages of our new design over the gas booster design. We did put a lot of those gas booster designs on the market up until late 2012, and of course we got lots of competitors that are still doing that design. So we wanted to come up with a way for people to turn their booster design into a high flow unit so that they could extract faster and have less maintenance problems. So we came up with, we call it the high flow retrofit. So you can buy one of these, roll it up to one of our old units or one of our competitors' units with about 2 hours of plumbing changes. Now your extractor can go two to three times as fast, and you're not going to have a pump breaking every 6 weeks. Next slide. So this is kind of just a general picture of a lot of the distillers we make. On the lower left is one of the low glass cold fingers where we started. Upper left is kind of our smallest stainless steel unit. It'll hold about 5 or 6 pounds of cannabis and extract that in a day or two. That's one of our larger 25-gallon units in the middle. And off to the right, this distiller was made for an industrial process where they were recovering naphtha from some kind of, something having to do with semiconductor making. And so it's just essentially a vacuum still where on the left, your dirty naphtha goes in and you heat and pull vacuum and the naphtha comes through and condenses and drops into the vessel on the right. And just an example of other things Eden Labs does. We've also done a lot of research with the flavoring industry, other industrial processes like separating plasticizers from plastic, and I don't know, other things I can't think of at this moment. Okay, the next slide. So this is an example of what we've done with the flavoring industry. On the left is the largest CO2 unit we've ever made. It's a 120-liter system. It's a flavoring company down in Los Angeles, and it's extracting vanilla beans. The vanilla beans is kind of weird. To legally call vanilla extract a vanilla extract, the FDA requires that you just take whole beans and soak them in alcohol with no heat, and then pour that off. So that's a really inefficient extraction process, but that's how you have to do it to call it vanilla extract. Anything else has to be called, a vanilla flavoring. So what we figured out is we can take that stuff after they've made the vanilla extract, we can take that and put it in the CO2 unit and get like twice as much vanilla extract as you got with the first go around. You just can't call it vanilla extract, but the CO2 extracted vanilla is actually superior for any time you want to mix vanilla with any kind of dairy product like vanilla ice cream or yogurt or anything like that. The CO2 extract basically goes in the solution in dairy much better. Okay, so next. Alright, so this is our crew. Eden Labs is based down in South Park on Cloverdale. We have a little factory there where we're making CO2 units. If you told me when I was in college that I would own a factory someday, I would have laughed. And then if you told me what that factory was doing, then I would have really laughed and said, oh, okay, I guess it makes sense. Anybody who would like to see, just make an appointment and come down to 309 South Cloverdale, get a D10, and you can see CO2 that's being made. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
That's Fritz from Eden Labs Extractions, one of the pioneers in extraction technology at the Marijuana Business Fair in Seattle, Washington at magicalbutter.com studios. I was there this weekend. We'll bring you more videos throughout the week, and if you'd like to get a copy of those videos, I'll have them uploaded to the Radical Russ YouTube channel this evening, at least a few of them. All right, that's all the time we got for today. Stay tuned. We've got Stony Sundays coming up next, and remember, all this week, reporting from Cannabis, Gordon Green out there in Barcelona, Spain. More of his interviews coming up in hour one as well. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned tonight for the new Viper Hour at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, live from Rolla J Studios. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers. This is the Russ Belville Show.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.